Start from the top. So Karla is going to share a story of something that happened this week, and then we'll get into the reading. But yay, we're back, and sorry for the technical difficulty. Let's get this party started.
That's right. So on Tuesday afternoon, Lee was taking a nap in the kitchen, and he was tilted back a little bit in his chair, and I was sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden his breathing, I could hear it, and all of a sudden I couldn't hear it. So I went running in there, his breathing was really shallow. He even stopped a couple of times. I'm like, oh no. So I called 911, and this is the same thing that happened 2 years ago, and we thought it was from Dilaudid. So he quit taking Dilaudid.
Which is a narcotic.
And he hasn't had it since, so obviously that wasn't what it was. And so the paramedics came. Fortunately, the fire chief lives right down the street. So they came, and I did CPR until they got there. And then the 911 operator wanted me to move Lee from his chair to the floor. And I said, I can't do that. And she said, oh, yes, you can. I said, no, really. He'll fall on me. We'll both be dead. I'm not going to do that. And I think she was thinking you were just in a manual chair, not a big power chair. And he was out, so it was dead weight. He can usually help us with transfers because he usually has strength in his legs.
And so Karla went with her gut instincts.
Said,
always go with your gut instincts.
Right, exactly.
Said, no.
And then the paramedics got here, and they thought he was having a stroke.
So did you talk about Jason down the street?
Yeah, that he was down the street. Okay. And so they were kind of going that route, and we transported him to the hospital. They gave him Narcan several times, and that didn't work, which rules out any opioid overdose. So the only conclusion they could come up with is that he takes baclofen, which is going to be in this chapter today, which is a muscle relaxant, and they think he got a toxic level of it somehow because he takes it in a pump and also orally. So it may have just built up in his system. Anyway, so they kept him, he finally woke up, and then they kept him for a few hours for observation, and they were able to come back home that night. But it was scary, so just no CPR and go with your gut instinct. If somebody tells you to do something, maybe that's not the best thing to do because you all pant, my adrenaline was going.
Karla did such, and she was by herself.
And of course, the caregiver had
just
left.
I wasn't here. She was there all by herself.
Yeah. But it's all good. And we're here.
And we're
to
here.
talk about it.
And I'm going to go check
Thankfully.
our live and make sure we're still working.
All right.
Okay, invite Kimberly to join here.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Keep going?
Just keep going.
All right.
Yep.
So Lee, take it
I
away.
was scared the entire time.
Oh, shut up. He was out.
I was out. Okay, so anyway, we are continuing our weekly readings of various chapters from this book we're still working on. Still a rough manuscript, but most of it is there. And if you've been staying abreast of everything going on, you'll know that we're sort of in the middle of a very long chapter, and probably the most, it's the chapter that affects me the most because I'm dealing with this every single day, every minute of every day, and it's just the initial title was The Pain Journey, and that journey, that chapter got so long that we had to cut it in half, and now we're into another chapter, continuing pain relief. So starting right here in the middle of what was a chapter comes right after an attempt that I made on essentially suicide, because I saw the end of this coming, and increasing pain was not going to be in my wheelhouse. It was really scary. So anyway, so this is the journey going beyond that and continuing. So anyway, here we go. Surviving the darkest chapter didn't end the suffering. It simply shifted the focus from escaping pain to searching for a way to live with it. As Lee's neuropathic pain intensified, so did the muscle tone that occurred above the level of his injury. Those muscles are still relied upon because they're normal, and they become recruited when you try to do stuff that's difficult to do because of your injury. All these muscles in the bottom of your neck and everything above the injury start to contract every single time you're trying to do anything. So when that pain gets really bad, it increases what we call muscle tone or spasticity. When that happens, it increases the chance of having even more pain. And then the cycle feeds on itself, gradually limiting the movement, little movement, that is still possessed. One of the main treatments for this is Botox injections, which are used to relax the overactive muscle. Despite repeatedly explaining which muscles felt painfully tight and restricted his movement to his pain doctor, who was going to start with these Botox injections, she never really heard me. She was used to using Botox on very specific areas and used what is called EMG or electromyography attached to the Botox needle to determine when the needle is actually in a muscle, but it doesn't tell you what muscle it is. Despite me trying to, show her where to do it, no, move left, move right, go up, go down, she just basically ignored all of that, and as soon as she got into a muscle in the back of my neck and upper shoulder area, as determined by the EMG, then she would inject. Well, it doesn't work if you don't get it in the area where you need it. So frustrating. After multiple treatments, we probably did this for 2 years, maybe intermittently. It was just an addition to the growing list of therapies that fail to provide meaningful relief. So the search continued. His main pain physician suggested trying ketamine, a treatment sometimes used when nothing else has worked for chronic pain. Unlike most pain medications, the ketamine works differently. It aims to interrupt faulty pain signals as they progress up to the brain, rather than just simply covering them up. The first part of these type of treatments starts with intranasal spray, kind of like a decongestant you would spray in your nose. And we tried that. I think we went through, 2 or 3 days of treatment, and nothing worked at all. So the next step in using ketamine is to start with a 2-week trial of intravenous, meaning through an IV, infusions, to see if that would work. Another problem, of course, the treatment wasn't available locally because there was nobody in town that knew how to deal with it. So he had to travel 3 hours to a Portland clinic in hopes that it might finally bring some relief. The protocol requires infusions 3 times a week, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and done over a 2-week session or therapy trial. Each of those sessions costs about $800 and is not covered by any insurance. So we would get there on Monday afternoon and check in for the latest appointment during the day, 4 or 5 p.m. And we started with really low concentrations or low doses. It's really weird. Although you remain conscious throughout the treatment and understand that the effects are temporary, the experience is deeply unsettling. The ketamine left her profoundly dissociated, detached from reality, but sort of attached, with being able to see, being able to hear, being able to feel when you're touched. But it is really disorienting. We had music playing in the background during the infusions, but instead of providing comfort, his mind would arc into distorted fragments of sound and disappear down what felt like endless mental wormholes. Holding a conversation with Karla became nearly impossible. Thoughts drifted away before I could grasp them, and reality felt strangely distant, although he was always consciously aware. Rather than finding and experiencing enlightening or therapeutic, he found himself counting down the minutes until it was over. The only positive was during each session, my pain couldn't really be processed while I was in that state, he said. One memorable incident occurred during only the second infusion. After the IV had been started and a bag of ketamine hanging, Braley, one of our caregivers, arrived to help position me onto the side in the recliner. She carefully adjusted his arm, shifted his weight to make him a little more comfortable. A few minutes after that, the physician walked into the room, took one look at his ketamine bag, and immediately knew something was off. Quote, "Wow, that was fast." The repositioning had altered the flow rate slightly, allowing the ketamine to infuse more quickly than had been intended. Infusing over the course of 5 minutes versus the usual 30, it had a ridiculously profound effect. He later described it as close as you can come to having a near-death experience while still being totally safe. Despite the infusions having a marked decrease in pain, there was no meaningful effect lasting long enough to justify the time, the money, and the unsettling altered state necessary to continue the treatment. And what I mean by it, there was decreased pain, it was only during the actual infusion
Yeah.
where you got all this other stuff going on,
Oh, sure.
and as soon as it's turned off and they watch it for a while, then you go out, and from what I remember, there was usually an hour or two where maybe things felt a little better.
Yep.
But long term, it was like
And
everything.
that was it. Only lasted an
Yeah.
hour or two. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy. So, stopped going to Portland for those 2-week trials, and the search continued for pain relief. In 2021, Lee's continued problems with increased muscle tone, stiffness, muscle spasticity were worsening. Because of that, a pump that is designed to deliver medication directly into the spinal canal was surgically implanted. And the reason for that is that instead of taking a muscle relaxant orally, it could be given through a catheter placed into your spinal column, into your spinal cord solution, and dripped in with really, really small amount.
This is the baclofen that we were talking
Right.
about.
Yeah, we were just talking about that
Tuesday.
baclofen that
Yeah.
reared its ugly head again
Yeah.
on Tuesday. The baclofen, it acts on these receptors in the spinal cord and reduces nerve signals that cause us a muscle tone. And it was placed through, again, another surgery under general anesthesia. While there was probably a little bit of spasticity and tone that was improved, the nerve pain did not. Other types of medications can be added to the pump, but there were no practitioners in Bend, where I was living at the time, who had any experience doing that. So because of that, he was referred to a pain specialist in Portland, the only physician in Oregon who routinely manages intrathecal pumps containing more than one medication. Simply obtaining an initial appointment with this doctor,
So annoying.
you guessed it, took nearly 6 months to get in just for the initial consultation. And during that time, things are miserable, just saying.
Yeah.
So after we got there and through the initial interview stages and reviewing the charts, treatment began. And the logistical challenges created by the office became apparent. The medication that was delivered directly into his intrathecal pump by his nurse in Bend, oh, that was a Freudian slip. God. Oh, anyway, okay, where was I?
Nurse in Bend.
Yeah, each dose, each time anything had to be changed, required an authorization from this Portland doctor. And all the changes followed a fairly predictable schedule of increasing, waiting a couple weeks, increasing some more, waiting a couple weeks. Each time that changed, this doctor had to write a different prescription for every adjustment. This small administrative detail created a recurring cycle. Because each refill dose increase, first needed a virtual follow-up from the appointment before, simply to report that there'd been no meaningful change. So, like that, you need to increase it. Okay, this involved having to get a hold of the doctor's office and have him sign an order before the medication could be shipped out to the nurse in Bend to administer. Too often, which in my memory was virtually every time, the process stalled. Phone calls almost always went unanswered. Messages requesting appointments or signed orders often went days without a response. As the refill dates approached each time, Lee and his caregivers found themselves repeatedly calling the office, explaining that the medication in his pump would soon run out if the paperwork was not completed. Even after appointments had taken place, the signed orders sometimes failed to arrive, requiring still more calls and messages before treatment could continue. The pattern repeated itself throughout the entire 8-month trial with this. He found himself navigating an administrative process that often left him wondering how differently it might function if those making the decisions experienced, even briefly, the pain that was being felt. So this went on for several months. The worst medical office Lee had ever encountered. Because of the failure for those meds to work, another drug called Ziconotide was ultimately prescribed and went through the same month-long, months and months and months of no meaningful result as well. After that drug didn't work, low-dose fentanyl was then introduced and gradually increased over 4 months now with, you guessed it, no meaningful improvement. He gave up hope that any of these medical interventions were going to help him at all. So he returned home to continue the pursuit of other possible remedies. During this several-month period, Lee researched what are called high-frequency spinal cord stimulators. These have been shown to potentially diminish pain from any sort of chronic pain and cord injuries as well. After consulting with a neurosurgeon affiliated with a Bend-based company, one of these was then surgically implanted into his spinal canal above the level of the injury, right up at the base of the skull. Over months, multiple programming adjustments were attempted. None of these relieved the pain. But a nice side effect of this was, again, another complication. Prolonged sitting in his chair created a pressure sore over what was essentially the battery pack for this high-frequency stimulator. Because of that, this necessitated yet another surgery to relocate the battery pack from the back to a skin pocket located in the front of his abdomen. That healed, luckily, and ultimately the stimulator was abandoned. Quote, all of these attempts to achieve effective pain control took years, Lee said. It was ridiculously frustrating. All the while, the searing pain was continuing to get worse. During all of these treatments, surgeries, failures of these protocols, the usual preventive procedures that all adults go through had to be endured as well. I'm almost 70 years old. So that necessitated things unrelated to my spinal cord. The problem is that the specialists don't understand that quadriplegics are not normal people. For example, he had to continue with his routine colonoscopies. If any of you have had any of these, you'll know that the prep is irritating at best for even the healthiest adult.
Mm-hmm.
A quadriplegic, though, can't just get up at a moment's notice, run to the toilet multiple times in the hours leading up to the appointment. Because of this, he got to sit all night on a commode in the bathroom until everything was clear. Fortunately, the colonoscopy itself went well, except for one small detail. The gastroenterologist came into the recovery room afterwards and told him that he had a 3/4 inch diameter polyp, which is not that unusual.
Right.
That's why people get scoped all the time. Not necessarily cancerous, but needs to be removed. What was unusual about all this is this doctor, when he walked in, said that he was, quote, and this is verbatim,
Yes.
because I've even got that in an email.
Yeah.
He was, quote, mentally unprepared to remove something like this. And, guess it, another colonoscopy will need to be rescheduled. Really? There's lots of question marks after that in the print.
Oh, right.
especially surgeons and doctors, are always mentally prepared before going into a surgical procedure to deal with any issues that can arise. His reaction to learning he needed another procedure can hardly be overstated. He was furious. The prospect of repeating the process was far more than a minor convenience. He immediately demanded that another doctor in the group perform the procedure, even though it meant enduring another night of a bowel prep all over again. Several weeks later, the colonoscopy went without any complications and fine, but the experience left Lee unsettled. If breakdowns in communication and continuity of care can happen so easily, it raises troubling questions about the direction of modern healthcare. Quote, "Is this really where our healthcare system is headed?" questioned Lee. It is a frightening thought. Despite all this, Lee began to wonder whether the worsening pain in his arms might be attributed to something more than just the spinal cord injury itself. This was because 10 years earlier he had undergone a surgery for a diagnosis of spinal stenosis. And this was a surgery on the neck. It's a condition that had also affected his father and ran in the family. Spinal stenosis occurs when gradual changes in the spine narrow the spaces where nerves exit the spinal cord, placing pressure on those nerves and often causing pain, numbness, and weakness. The pain in his arms felt disturbingly familiar. It reminded him of symptoms that had led to the surgery a decade later. Earlier, thank you. I have problems with reading today. As the discomfort continued to progress, he revisited his previous MRI reports that described severe narrowing in parts of his cervical spine. Began consulting with neurosurgeons, exploring whether surgery to relieve these constrictions could possibly help reduce the pain. Convincing his neurosurgeon to even consider it proved to be a slow process. It took months of discussions before there was an agreement to operate on both sides of his neck and remove the bone spurs that were pressing on nerve roots that correlated to the pain in the arms. The surgery was performed in late March 2026 and required a significant recovery over several weeks. Yet by 8 weeks post-operative, there had been no meaningful improvement. The gradual increase in pain and generalized weakness, especially in his arms, persisted despite the procedure. Obviously, the outcome was both frustrating and disappointing. More troubling was the reality that few meaningful treatment options remained. Chronic pain as a way of becoming the center of a person's world. Lee discovered that one of the most effective ways to push back against this was to find activities that demanded his attention, sparked curiosity, or simply made him laugh. Distraction, he found, was a powerful tool. One of the most unexpected examples arrived during COVID pandemic through a social media platform that he had barely heard of. TikTok. Kathy had begun experimenting with TikTok as a creative outlet herself. What started as a simple challenge to post videos every day quickly evolved into a shared family activity featuring fashion, which is obviously the girls' expertise, cooking, developing cocktails, and just everyday life. Before long, Kathy recruited him to participate in these videos. And what began as an occasional appearance soon became a regular role. By mid-afternoon each day, he would often ask, well, what are we filming today? For him, the videos became more than just entertainment. The distraction provided an opportunity to shift his attention elsewhere. Whether tasting a new cocktail, offering commentary, or simply joking with Kathy and Karla, the process gave him something to anticipate and enjoy. As Karla explained, quote, "It's always about creating distraction because it is pain. It gets his mind off of it if he's having a particular bad day." The videos also offered something equally important, a connection. They allowed him to engage with family members, share glimpses of his life as a quadriplegic, and interact with an audience that appreciated his humor and personality. What began as a pandemic experiment became another reminder that even small activities can bring purpose, laughter, and relief during difficult journeys. So that's kind of the end of that rough manuscript for dealing with pain.
I'm going to go check on questions. Bear with me because I'm the producer
Oh
too.
yes, we have no producer as we're trying to explain. And it's,
Sorry for the technical difficulty
yes.
earlier.
That's okay.
But here we are. Okay. To host.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
What's a big?
All right. Lee, can you describe the pain again?
I know I keep talking about pain. The pain, let's see, if I could give somebody something to hang your hat on as far as sort of where it starts, is the worst sunburn of your life. Meaning, okay, I haven't been out all summer, nice first 80-degree day, and you slather yourself up with mineral oil and whatever, and lay out for a couple hours, determined to get a tan. Well, next morning you wake up with blisters all over the areas that haven't been covered. That's where the pain begins each day. What happens beyond that depends upon activity, amount of sleep, that type of thing. What gets added on to the sunburn is an electrical, what do you call it? It's an electrical feeling. Zingers, like you're touching an electric fence. For all you who grew up on farms and know what those are. Really distracting. Because while these are going on top of the sunburn, you really can't think about
Right.
anything else. Luckily, those the worst days, it happens all the time, and good days, it happens, I don't know, a few times an hour, that sort of thing. So
Jeez.
that's kind of where it begins and kind of where it is right now. I haven't figured anything out yet.
Well, kind of along those same lines, someone asked, can you feel the injection go into the muscle with the Botox. Is it painful? Do you feel that? And how often do you have to get
Oh, that's
injections?
interesting. So Botox has been around for 30, 40 years. And what it is there's a disease called tetanus, which people have all heard about. They all get tetanus shots.
Sure.
And it's developed, or it comes from purified toxin from a specific bacteria. And in and of itself, it doesn't sting at all to inject it. And luckily, it's injected through a very, very small needle. So unless you're horribly needle phobic, the injections really are nothing. They last, the effect of it, different in every person, but it takes a week, 5 to 10 days for it to set up.
Okay.
And then paralyzes the muscle for, on average, about 3 months. And so then when you want the effect of that to get again, you go back into your doctor, have it injected. And most people hear Botox, they don't hear about it as a therapeutic treatment. 99% of all Botox is cosmetic.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people get it done, they love it. And in my office, actually, we injected a lot of Botox. My nurses and my techs and everything, they did an amazing job. So that's a really good question.
Cool. Let's see. Someone asked, how often is the ketamine spray used throughout the day? Because I think you started with spraying it,
Yeah,
right?
started-
Before the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It starts, a trial of ketamine to sort of diminish pain starts with a intranasal, just a puff. I think it's 2 of them. And it's prescribed, I think, every 4 to 6 hours or so during
Oh,
the
wow.
day. During the time that I started it, I was having a lot of pain, and I think I only lasted 3 days doing that, and told my pain doctor that, well, this isn't working.
right.
What's the next
What's
step?
next?
So,
Yeah.
Along with that, the ketamine. Okay, why is ketamine not covered by insurance and yet other treatments are covered by insurance? That's a lot of freaking money.
I know.
it is a lot of money, and for insurance companies to reimburse or to pay for any type of treatment, a diagnosis has to be obtained. A doctor needs to get a diagnosis that has been shown by the FDA, Federal Drug Administration, to be effective at decreasing the symptoms of that essential diagnosis without causing complications on the other side of it. And there hasn't been enough research in showing that, at least in my condition, where it was being injected, it was going to be covered. You might hear of people getting Botox for migraines.
Uh-huh.
You know, after the Botox was FDA approved, it took another 10 years or so for research to show that in certain trigger point areas, injecting it would diminish the incidence of severe migraines in people.
Interesting. And what a bummer that it's not covered, but I guess it didn't work. I'm glad you didn't have to spend any more. What is, I'm going to get this messed up, but zyconotide that you mentioned? Zyconotide?
Zyconidine.
Yes,
Yeah, just
That too.
that too.
this is something I'm probably going to expand on in the book. Zyconotide, interesting enough, is a drug that comes from purifying the venom It's a neurotoxin that's extracted from what's called a cone snail shell. It's like a slug. It has
That's
a
so
shell,
bizarre.
but they have a stinger on them that when you step on them or a predator comes up, it'll inject that into your foot or whatever, and it's supremely effective at killing people. When it's purified and in microscopic amounts, research has shown that if you drip it in to your spinal cord, again, the spinal cord fluid around the spinal cord itself, it's been shown in certain types of pain to be effective at diminishing it. It didn't work on me, but
No.
I would say a lot of people have done it, but
Yeah.
it is one of those that is, quote, FDA approved. Been through all the clinical trials that is necessary to have it be approved.
Okay, one final question here, unless someone else comes in, and feel free to come in with a question, but is neuropathy pain common in spinal cord injuries?
Good question.
Totally.
A lot of different studies. Every spinal cord injury is different, but in general, probably 3/4 of patients that have spinal cord injuries have pain involved or attributed to the injury. Most of the time, it goes away after months. 2, 3, 4, 5 months, something like that. Problem with mine is that it has continued to worsen just gradually. Every month or two, it just gets incrementally worse. And we're still in the process of trying to find something that will make life tolerable, really.
If anybody knows of anything, let us know, or if you have a fabulous doctor that helped you with your pain.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that we haven't tried yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That, boy, for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe even a drug dealer that deals some weird drug that nobody's ever heard of that actually works.
Jeez.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Actually, I would try that. I'm at that point.
Yeah, no
That's
kidding.
right.
Well, be sure and follow us on TikTok. We'll be back next week, the same time, Sunday at 4.
And it's going to be the chapter on
Oh, yeah.
returning to the scene of the accident.
Oh,
We went
God,
down
that
on
was-
the polo match.
that was amazing.
This is the first time people have watched this. Spinal cord injury happened 6 years ago, and it was while I was playing polo in
Yeah.
a tournament down in the desert. And I have not been, even though I've been in California
Yeah.
multiple times, I had never really gotten the urge to go back and, witness the actual scene of the crime. So this
We did.
whole
This is gonna be
next
amazing.
chapter is
Yeah.
kind of interesting. It wasn't even that long ago. was just
It wasn't that long
back
ago.
in February, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
But we'll go over that, and I'll answer any questions you have about pain, spinal cord injuries, or polo.
Yeah. There you
Everybody's
go.
interested.
Yeah.
Hardly anybody plays it, so.
I think we have a recap of that day somewhere on our TikTok. But anyway, yeah. But we will be back next week.
Yes.
Thank you for joining, and sorry about the
Sorry
technical
about that.
difficulty, but I'm glad that
And
we
thank
were
you
able
for
to.
letting us know, because we're just
Yeah,
jabbering along and
Oh
not
my
knowing.
gosh. Yeah. So really
thank you for
appreciate
letting us
that.
know.
And thank you for your patience and for coming
Yeah.
back and joining us.
Exactly.
All right. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
Yeah.
Bye. Now, let's see. How do I turn this off?
Turn the phone off.